Imagine you're scrolling through social media and you come across an advertisement featuring your favorite celebrity. Would you buy whatever they were offering, even if you didn't need it? If you're someone like me, you just might. But maybe you're someone who isn't easily influenced by celebrities. Imagine instead that you're in a job interview. If the interviewer asked you to stand on one foot and burp the alphabet, do you think you would do it? You may be more likely to do this if it was a group interview and the other interviewees were already doing it. Or maybe it just depends on how badly you want this position. I'm sure we can all think of a time in our life when we've behaved out of character. Maybe you too have been influenced through TikTok to buy something that you didn't actually need. Or maybe you once left a glowing review on a movie that you hated just because your friends liked the movie. The problem is, we may not be as in control of our decision-making as we think. I know, you're probably picturing a tinfoil hat on my head just about now. But hear me out. Our decision-making is constantly being influenced by our emotions at the time, the presence of others, our own previous biases, and many other things. And advertisements, like the ones we see on TikTok, are specifically designed to convince us, and they're designed with these influences in mind. But don't worry, there are things you can do to consciously override these influences, and the best thing you can do is educate yourself on the psychology behind decision-making. The first way that advertisements can manipulate us is by appealing to our emotions. This is a very common tactic used in ads. For example, ads can be designed to inspire feelings of happiness, sadness, fear, anger, and more. When ads inspire positive feelings, the brands hope that we attribute these feelings to the product in the ad. For example, this ad on the top right is trying to convince you that drinking Coke will make you happy. However, ads can also be particularly powerful when they play on negative emotions. For example, this sad little puppy dog in the top left is trying to convince you to donate. There are 3 factors that persuade us, and brands use them in advertising. The first factor is relatability. Put simply, we're persuaded more by people that we can relate to. Brands will use relatable characters or situations so that consumers feel emotionally connected to the brand. Second, we're more persuaded by people that we like. Brands often use likable celebrities in their ads in order to increase the public perception of their brand. Lastly, we're more persuaded by people who we deem experts in a given field. Brands will use endorsements from experts in order to convey that their brand is trustworthy and knowledgeable. These factors mean that we're persuaded simply by the person in the ad. For relatability, this brand used a university student in order to appeal to that specific demographic. For likability, I'm sure everyone's social media feed is flooded with constant celebrity endorsements. Brands hope that our positive feelings for Messi transfer over to a positive perception of their product. And lastly, brands are constantly using expert testimony in order to get their point across, whether they're trying to sell you the #1 dentist-recommended toothbrush or these physician-endorsed cigarettes. Social psychology tells us that the presence of others influences our behavior, specifically when the situation is ambiguous. Put simply, when we don't know what to do, we tend to look to others and conform to whatever they're doing. Conformity can be broadly split into 2 influences. The first is the normative influence. This involves conforming due to a fear of being rejected by the group. The second is the informational influence. This involves conforming simply because you don't know how to act, and you assume that everyone else must be on the right track. Now you might be saying, that's great, Sierra. Now we know why that guy burped the alphabet earlier on. But what does this have to do with advertising? Well, why don't I show you? Some brands convey the message that you need to buy their product in order to fit in. By saying that everyone's doing it, they're more likely to persuade you to follow their ad. Like, did you know that thousands of people are already switching to eco-friendly products? What are you waiting for? Or how about an ad targeted at hygiene? There's no need to be embarrassed. Simply ask for Zip razor blades at your local toilet goods counter. Okay, how about an ad from this century? Here's Venus telling you that you're a woman, so you should shave like one. Alrighty, how about that informational influence? Well, social media companies love to capitalize on others' opinions and use it to convince us to buy things. Just think about how Amazon showcases the best-selling products, just in case you weren't sure exactly which one to get. Or how about brands on Facebook letting you know how many people have liked their page? If you hadn't heard of a brand before, you may think positively if you knew that 34 million people already liked them. Okay, so now you might be saying, that's great, Sierra. I see your fancy psychology terms, but I'm just built different. I'm a psychology major, so I can tell when I'm being tricked. Well, to that I would say, just being exposed to an ad improves our opinion of the brand, and this occurs unconsciously due to a phenomenon known as the mere exposure effect. The mere exposure effect states that we have a preference for things that we've previously been exposed to, even if we can't consciously remember seeing that ad. So, when you're scrolling past advertisements on TikTok, you may not realize that your perception of the brand is still being influenced. But all hope is not lost. There are still things you can do to override these unconscious influences. Going forward, when you see an ad on TikTok, try to remember this talk and be careful that you're not falling victim to the persuasive techniques used in advertising. Thank you so much.